Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to do my review of SummerSlam 2006. Starting off the evening, we're going to go to our first match of the night. It is Rey Mysterio versus Chavo Guerrero. Number one, I thought this was a good opening matchup for SummerSlam 2006. Back and forth matchup between Mysterio and Chavo, with Rey keeping the pace of the match. Rey hits a 619 on Chavo, but Chavo gets up. Rey and Chavo both exchange in the middle of the ring. Vicky is here. Vicky then smacks Chavo Guerrero. Rey then hits a Hurricane Rana on Chavo Guerrero. Rey then pays homage and hits the Three Amigos on Chavo Guerrero. Vicky then wants Rey and Chavo to stop the match. Chavo then hits a devastating brainbuster on Rey. Then Chavo gets to the top rope, hits a frog splash on Rey Mysterio, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Chavo Guerrero. Hats off to Chavo Guerrero for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is for the ECW World Championship. It is Big Show versus Sabu. I thought this was a relatively good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Show and Sabu. Sabu then throws a chair at the Big Show. Show gets up. He was trying to keep the pace of the match. Sabu then hits Big Show with another chair shot. Sabu then lands a bulldog on Show through a table. Sabu then hits a DDT on Big Show through a table. Show then hits a chokeslam though on Sabu. Pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match, and at that time, still ECW World Champion, is the Big Show. Hats off to the Big Show for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Randy Orton versus Hulk Hogan. I thought this was a relatively good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Orton and Hogan, with Hogan keeping the pace of the match. Orton hits an RKO for a near fall. Hulk then hits a big boot. And then Hulk ultimately hits his signature leg drop on Randy Orton. Pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match is Hulk Hogan. Hats off to Hulk Hogan for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Ric Flair versus Mick Foley in an I Quit match. Number one, I thought this was a great match. Back and forth matchup between Flair and Foley, with Foley keeping the pace of the match. Foley hits Rick with a trash can. Mick then applies a mandible claw on Ric Flair. Rick gets out of that, hits a low blow on Foley. Rick then hits a chop using the barbed wire. Foley then hits Flair with a barbed wire board. Absolutely brutal. Rick gets busted open from that. Mick then pulls out a bag of tacks. Mick then hits a scoop slam on Ric Flair onto the tacks. Mick then attacks Ric Flair with a barbed wire bat. Rick then gets up, hits Mick with the barbed wire bat, sends Mick flying off the apron. Referee calls for the match to end. Rick then pulls Mick back into the ring. Melina then throws in the towel. She wants to stop the match. Mick then grabs a microphone and says that he quits. And your winner of the match is Ric Flair. Hats off to Ric Flair for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the World Heavyweight Championship. It is Booker T versus Batista. I thought this was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Booker T and Batista, with Batista keeping the pace of the match. But Sharmell ultimately attacks Batista. And your winner of the match by disqualification is Batista. Hats off to Batista for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is DX versus Shane and Vince McMahon. Before the match even gets started, Spirit Squad end up making their way down to the ring. DX then takes out the Spirit Squad. Vince then brings out Regal, Finlay, and Kennedy. They make their way down to the ring, attack DX. DX ends up taking care of Regal, Finlay, and Kennedy. Big Show makes his way down to the ring. Show then attacks Shawn Michaels. Big Show hits a chokeslam on Triple H through the announce table on the outside. Shane then goes for a coast-to-coast on Shawn, but Shawn ends up hitting a super kick on Shane. But Triple H ultimately hits a pedigree, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are DX. Hats off to DX for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of SummerSlam 2006. It is Edge versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. I thought this was a great match. Back and forth matchup between Edge and John Cena, with John keeping the pace of the match. John applies an STFU on Edge, but Edge breaks the hold. Lita then hands Edge brass knuckles. John then goes for a FU. Edge then hits John Cena with the brass knuckles. Referee was distracted. Pins for the 3. And your winner of the match, and at that time, still WWE Champion, is Edge. A couple of things I'm going to say about SummerSlam 2006 before I get out of here, man. Number one, this was a solid SummerSlam from top to bottom, man. Rey Mysterio versus Chavo Guerrero to open SummerSlam 2006. Fantastic matchup, man. It was great. Big Show versus Sabu for the ECW World Championship. It was great to see ECW at this pay-per-view, you know, them being represented with the ECW World Championship. I thought the match was actually pretty good, in my honest opinion. Randy Orton versus Hulk Hogan. I thought it was a decent match. Obviously, this was a part where, you know, part of the time where Randy Orton was the Legend Killer. I thought it was one of the best gimmicks that he's had of all time. And this was just continuing the, you know, the Legend Killer gimmick that he had, which was absolutely fantastic. One of the matches of the night for me, honestly, was Ric Flair versus Mick Foley in this I Quit match. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Both Mick Foley and Ric Flair were busted wide open. Ric Flair was severely busted wide open. And the fact that, you know, the referee wanted to stop the matchup and then Rick wanted to continuously keep going. I mean, it was absolutely insane matchup. And I didn't see it going that way, but pulling out the barbed wire table, the barbed wire bat, Ric Flair being busted wide open. I mean, it was absolutely insane. You have Melina come out to the ring, begging the referee to stop the match. He ends up throwing the towel, wanting to stop the match. Flair wants to continue. It was just a great matchup, man. It was a great story. Edge versus John Cena for the main event. I mean, I thought it was a really good matchup. I mean, one of the two biggest rivals at that time with Edge and John Cena. And the storyline leading up to this match was obviously Edge. There was something about Edge supposedly going into Cena's home and smacking John Cena's father or whatever like that. And a lot of back and forth between both John Cena and Edge. It was one of the best storylines ever for John Cena, honestly, when he was beefing with Edge. It was a great rivalry between both those dudes, and it made for a great match. And a lot of great matches between Edge and John Cena. But Edge ended up getting the victory in this matchup and retaining the WWE Championship. But all in all, SummerSlam 2006, man, it was a solid event from top to bottom. I'm not going to sit here and say it was the best SummerSlam of all time, but it damn sure was not the worst. If I have to give SummerSlam 2006 a rating from 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a solid probably 7.5 at best, man. This was a decent SummerSlam. I feel like if I gave it any more of a higher number than that, I think it would be you know, a little too much to give it a higher number than 7.5. But all in all, I think SummerSlam 2006 was a solid event, and that's the reason why I'm giving this event a 7.5 at best. But this is my review of SummerSlam 2006. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.